The beginning of the nightmare. The cold wind cut through the darkness of the night as Detective João walked through the deserted streets of the small town of São Valentim. The street lamps flickered intermittently, casting unsettling shadows on the sidewalks. João was tired, but the urgent call to investigate a new murder had forced him out of his brief retirement. Arriving at the abandoned house on the outskirts, he immediately sensed that something was terribly wrong. The front door was ajar, swinging slowly in the wind. The heavy silence was broken only by the rustling of dry leaves. With a trembling hand, João pushed the door open, which creaked in protest. The metallic smell of blood hit his nostrils as soon as he crossed the threshold. The room was shrouded in darkness, lit only by the weak glow of João's flashlight. The walls were covered in strange symbols, drawn with a dark, viscous liquid. In the center of the room, 3 mutilated bodies were arranged in a ritualistic pattern, their eyes wide open in eternal expressions of terror. João tried to control the nausea rising in his throat as he approached the bodies. The precision of the cuts and the positioning of the bodies indicated that this was no ordinary murder. There was something deeply sinister and meticulously planned here. Next to the bodies, he found an old leather-bound diary with yellowed pages. Flipping through the diary, João came across cryptic writings about rituals and invocations. Drawings of symbols similar to those covering the walls were scattered throughout the pages. Amid the notes, one name appeared repeatedly: Blood Cult. A sect that, according to the writings, believed in summoning supernatural entities through human sacrifices. As he examined the diary, João heard a faint groan coming from a dark corner of the room. His flashlight revealed a young woman huddled there, her eyes wide with fear. She was covered in blood but seemed to be alive. "My name is Ana," she murmured, her voice trembling. "The voices, the shadows, killed my family." Ana was in shock, but João managed to calm her down enough to get her out of the house. On the way, she whispered fragmented memories about whispering voices and shadows that attacked her family, making it clear that the threat was not merely human. Back at the station, João began piecing together the puzzle. The diary notes mentioned a lunar pattern that the murders followed, and he realized that the next sacrifice was imminent. Anna's words echoed in his mind, heightening his sense of urgency. There was something beyond human understanding behind those crimes, and he was determined to uncover the truth before more lives were taken. As João analyzed the details of the case, a feeling of unease settled over him. The shadows on the walls seemed to move, and Anna's whispers about voices and shadows became increasingly present in his thoughts. What had once seemed like a serial murder case now transformed into a supernatural nightmare. And with each new clue, the feeling that something terrible was coming only grew stronger. The ritual. The unease that had settled over João intensified as he delved deeper into his investigation. The diary's cryptic notes haunted him, hinting at a pattern far more sinister than he initially imagined. João's sleepless nights were filled with fragmented nightmares of rituals and blood. João and Ana, now bound by their shared trauma, decided to explore the old forest where the cult supposedly held its rituals. The path to the heart of the forest was overgrown, barely visible under the canopy of twisted branches. The air grew colder as they ventured deeper, and the sunlight barely penetrated the thick foliage, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance around them. They finally reached a clearing where an ancient stone altar stood ominously. The symbols carved into its surface were identical to those João had seen in the house and the diary. The air around the altar was heavy with a sense of foreboding. As João examined the altar, Ana began to remember more details about the night her family was attacked. "It was here," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I remember the chanting, the shadows moving among the trees." Suddenly, they both heard a faint whispering, not unlike what Ana had described. The sound seemed to come from all directions, making it impossible to pinpoint its source. João's grip tightened on his flashlight, his heart pounding. He scanned the surroundings, but there was no one in sight. As they prepared to leave, a shadowy figure emerged from behind the altar. It was an old man, his eyes gleaming with a mad intensity. "You've come far, João," he said, his voice raspy. "But you're meddling in things beyond your understanding." João recognized him as the old priest mentioned in the diary. The man began to speak of the cult's history, revealing that they believed sacrificing specific individuals with special blood could summon entities from another realm. The next sacrifice was crucial, and time was running out. "You're one of the chosen, João," the priest said, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "Your blood is needed to complete the ritual." The revelation hit João like a cold wave. His connection to the cult was deeper than he had imagined. As the priest continued to speak, João felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The forest around them seemed to close in, the whispering growing louder, more insistent. Ana, sensing the imminent danger, grabbed João's arm. "We need to go, now," she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. As they turned to leave, the shadows seemed to come alive, swirling around them. João and Ana ran through the forest, the whispers turning into guttural growls. The path that had been difficult to navigate earlier now seemed impossible to find. The darkness was suffocating, the air thick with an unnatural chill. They stumbled upon an old cabin hidden among the trees and took refuge inside. Panting and shaken, they barred the door and windows as best they could. Inside, the cabin was eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. João's mind raced as he tried to piece together the information. The priest's words lingered, the implication of his own involvement in the cult's plans weighing heavily on him. Ana found a hidden compartment in the cabin, containing more diaries and old photographs. One photograph, in particular, stood out, a group of cult members standing around a young boy who looked eerily like João. "That's you," Ana said, her voice trembling. "You were part of this, and you didn't even know." João's world tilted. Memories he had long buried began to resurface, flashes of rituals, chanting, and dark ceremonies. The realization that his past was intricately woven into the cult's dark history filled him with a mix of fear and determination. As the night wore on, the whispers outside grew louder, more desperate. João knew they had to act quickly. The next sacrifice was imminent, and stopping the ritual was their only chance to end the horror. But the forest held more secrets, and as dawn approached, João realized that the true terror was yet to come. The final confrontation. The shadows outside the cabin seemed to writhe with a life of their own as dawn approached, casting an ominous pall over João and Ana. João's mind was a maelstrom of fragmented memories and the priest's chilling revelation. Every instinct told him that the forest was alive with an ancient evil and time was running out. Determined to put an end to the cult's reign of terror, João and Ana prepared to confront the cult members and stop the ritual. Armed with only their resolve and the cryptic clues from the diaries, they ventured back into the forest. The path seemed clearer now, as if guiding them towards their fate. They soon reached a hidden clearing, where a circle of cultists stood around a blazing bonfire. The air was thick with the scent of burning herbs and the sound of low, guttural chanting. In the center of the circle, bound to the ancient stone altar, was a young girl, her eyes wide with terror. The old priest, standing at the head of the circle, raised his arms and began the final incantation. The air crackled with energy, and shadows danced wildly around the clearing. João's heart pounded as he realized that the moment of truth had arrived. "We have to stop them," Ana whispered urgently, her eyes locked on the girl. João nodded, his jaw set with determination. They moved quietly through the underbrush, getting as close as possible without being seen. As the chanting reached a fever pitch, João and Ana burst into the clearing, brandishing makeshift weapons. "Stop this madness!" João shouted, his voice echoing through the trees. The cultists turned, their eyes gleaming with a mix of surprise and malice. The priest sneered, his hands still raised in invocation. "You're too late, João. The ritual is almost complete." João charged towards the altar, but a wall of shadowy figures blocked his path. The cultists lunged at him, and a fierce struggle ensued. Ana, with surprising strength, fought alongside him, their desperation lending them strength. The air was filled with the sounds of combat and the screams of the girl on the altar. As João fought his way towards the priest, he felt a strange, otherworldly force guiding his movements. The symbols and incantations from the diary flashed in his mind, and he began to understand their true purpose. With a final, desperate effort, he reached the altar and knocked the priest to the ground. The chanting faltered, and the shadows around them seemed to waver. João grabbed the priest's ceremonial dagger and slashed through the bindings holding the girl. As he pulled her away from the altar, the ground beneath them began to tremble. "No," the priest screamed, his voice filled with rage and fear. "You've doomed us all." The bonfire roared higher, the flames turning an unnatural shade of black. The air was filled with a deafening roar as the ground split open, revealing a swirling vortex of darkness. The cultists screamed in terror as they were sucked into the void, their bodies contorting and dissolving into the shadows. João, Ana, and the girl clung to the altar as the vortex threatened to pull them in. With a final, desperate prayer, João drove the ceremonial dagger into the altar, shattering it into pieces. The vortex shrieked and began to collapse, the shadows dissipating into the dawn light. As the first rays of sunlight pierced the clearing, the forest fell silent. The cultists were gone, and the dark presence that had haunted São Valentim had vanished. João and Ana, exhausted and battered, helped the girl to her feet and made their way out of the clearing. Back in the town, the sun rose over a new day. João and Ana knew that their battle had not been in vain. The town was free from the cult's grip, but the scars of their ordeal would remain. As they walked through the deserted streets, João felt a sense of closure, yet an awareness that some mysteries would never be fully understood. The whispers and shadows might have been vanquished, but their memory would linger, a dark reminder of the thin veil between our world and the unknown horrors that lie beyond.